Well, here we are again, my friend. Man, I really don't know how to feel after this main event.
Yeah, this was a fun pay-per-view. I'm gonna say that right off the bat.
Yes.
We are obviously talking about WWE Clash of Champions 2020 that took place tonight, emanating from the Thunderdome in the WWE Thunderdome.
Yes.
To kind of jump the gun on a bit, we're talking about the main event. We're talking about the Universal title match between Roman Reigns and Jey Uso.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, when this match was announced a few weeks ago, I didn't know what I was going to expect. And I still can say I don't think I was expecting that.
Oh man, I think I'll talk about it a little more once we get to it on our lineup. But man, yeah, it was shivers.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so WWE Clash of Champions 2020, of course. Today, I mean, I'm in a really good mood at this point. I had a really great day at work. My Seahawks are 3-0, right at the top of the division, all by themselves. Russell Wilson is going to win the MVP this year, and Tomas hates that. But it's all good, friendly competition here. But
oh yeah, absolutely.
Let's see. Yeah, but yeah, and I got off work roughly around 5:45, so pretty deep into this pay-per-view actually, and I didn't get home until about 6:15, so that would put me starting the show around 6:30 Pacific time. And Tomas is one of the only people I can trust not to give me spoilers.
Oh yeah.
So thank you for that.
We kind of coordinated because we've both been guilty of giving each other minor spoilers
Yes.
to shows, but now we're kind of on the track, especially with pay-per-views. That's like, hey, we're not gonna be. One of us isn't gonna watch it live. We're like, okay, I'll know not to say anything.
Yeah.
We'll kind of give each other a hey, no spoilers, but
yeah, he's had to tell me to pump the brakes quite a few times. So
yeah, just like give it a second.
Yeah.
Now do you understand why Reigns and Jey went on last?
You know, honestly, I honestly still would have put the ambulance match on last. Honestly, all things considered,
both matches worked. And I think it just, honestly, to me, it just depends. Did you want a happy ending or did you want a really sad ending? And
I would want a really happy ending because if Roman Reigns is the heel, Payback ended on a pretty low note also. So I would honestly rather have this pay-per-view end on a happier note, like just to kind of buff that.
There's no doubting whatsoever that Reigns is a full-blown heel.
Oh,
there's
remember at the end of the SummerSlam podcast to my viewers last month when I asked, do you guys think Roman is the face or the heel? It is very, very clear that he is the top heel in this promotion now.
Very, very clear.
The marks.
He didn't do anything nice tonight.
All of you marks got exactly what you wanted. Roman is full-blown heel now, and he's fucking awesome.
And yeah, I don't think there's any room to complain with him being a heel because he's running with this character.
Oh yeah.
And one thing I want to get into before we get into the pre-show, I caught the very tail end of the Jey Uso Chronicle that WWE was doing before the pre-show. And despite this being a main event that was kind of thrust on us last second with little to no build to Jey being a legit competitor for a world title, I think Jey is doing a fantastic job.
Oh yeah.
You know, kind of just, they gave him the ball and he's running with it, and seeing how much kind of backstory they're giving into this match, and just with Jey's intensity and his charisma, as you already see with him and the Usos. Yeah. I think for a makeshift main event player, as they're making Jey right now, he's doing good. They're doing good with him.
I am a huge fan of the Usos. I was really happy to see Jey get the opportunity he did here. I kind of did not like that he pinned Matt Riddle in that fatal four-way to win the opportunity, but I mean, that might just be nitpicking here. But anyway, yeah, before we get way too ahead of ourselves, yeah, you mentioned the pre-show, which I did not get to watch. Apparently, the SmackDown Tag Team titles were on the Kickoff show. Cesaro and Shinsuke Nakamura defending against the Lucha House Party.
Before we get into that, a quick thing that the biggest story going into this pay-per-view tonight was two matches got altered, and that being that Bayley was not going to be defending the SmackDown Women's title against Nikki Cross, and the originally scheduled match for the Women's Tag Team titles was supposed to be Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax defending against the Riot Squad. And I'm going to say this right now, these are unexplained reasons. I know the first thing everyone's thinking is, oh, COVID. Everyone's saying that right now.
Yeah.
But going into it a little, that is not confirmed, and apparently that is not the case, thankfully. I know how everyone likes to jump on that right away, but thankfully that is not the case. They gave a somewhat of an explanation for Cross not being there, saying she was medically not clear to compete. There is no injury report on her right now. And straight up for Jackson Baszler, they just said it'll get addressed tomorrow night on Monday Night Raw. Yeah. So they kind of hinted at that there's going to be a replacement opponent for Nikki Cross, but straight up the women's tag team title match was not going to happen tonight. And this was announced 1 hour before the kickoff show.
Okay.
So it was basically the big story going into the show. But anywho, like you said, Nakamura and Cesaro versus Kalisto and Lince Dorado representing the Lucha Party during this tag team title match. Not too much to say from this match. Lucha House Party did some good Lucha things, and it was a pretty standard tag team match, probably all the way up until near the end of the match, where the Luchas like really kicked into gear. They're doing their high flying stuff. Cesaro and Nakamura obviously putting in the work as well. The finish for this match came. Chaos pretty much ensued. Kalisto was about to hit Salida del Sol on Cesaro, and he was able to counter into the Cesaro swing, combination into the Kinshasa knee strike. And Cesaro and Nakamura were able to pick up the win there and retain the tag team titles, which
of course.
I'm glad.
Of course.
For Cesaro and Nakamura kind of being in the middle of legit tag team and kind of random tag team. My thought process with that is Cesaro can make any tag team work. It was fine. It was a good match, but I didn't want them to drop it to the Lucha House Party. Yeah, because it looks like they're kind of teasing dissension, and I don't know. I feel like I'm in the majority when I say I kind of think their gimmick is annoying, and I feel like this has been a thing since last year, or I think even the year before. People were saying like, "Oh, you have 3 of the most talented luchadors in professional wrestling, and you're kind of treating them like a joke."
And they just kind of group them all together because they're all very similar, like ring styles. They're just all luchadors, But
Kalisto started off in a tag team with Sin Cara. They wanted to give him a singles push, but then realized, hey, you're never going to get the next Rey Mysterio, so they shoved him back into a faction.
And I mean, honestly, I really loved the Lucha Dragons back in 2015, rating
Lucha House Party. Yeah, as wrestlers, they're fine, but as a gimmick, it's just, I think WWE knows it's kind of worn out its welcome. But rating-wise, I'd give it 2.5 stars.
Okay,
it was a fun little kickoff match.
All right, my rating, of course, if and when I watch it, that'll of course be down in the description with everything else, as is the case with all these podcasts. But here we go. Opening match. I am so excited to talk about this. This was the match I was looking forward to the most. Triple threat, winner-take-all ladder match for the Intercontinental Championship. Jeff Hardy versus Sami Zayn versus AJ Styles.
They opened this show with a banger.
AJ Styles.
Straight banger.
You guys have been listening to these podcasts for a while now. AJ has not been on pay-per-view since Money in the Bank, which I think is a freaking travesty. And here he is finally in the opener.
Spoiler alert, ladies and gentlemen, this was the match of the night.
Yeah, this was a tremendous pro wrestling match. Point blank.
And it was a tremendous ladder match as well.
Yeah, this match was absolutely crazy. It was so hard for me to take notes, especially since I had dinner in front of me. But I tried to take as much as I could. But
so I think this is the best kind of match. Yeah, we talk about what were our favorite spots because there was a few.
Yeah, here, let's see. I'm going down my notes here. Sami hits a really nice springboard moonsault to the outside. And by the way, also, I am really, really happy to see Sami Zayn back in the WWE ring at this point, too.
It's nice to see some of the wrestlers that took some time off due to the pandemic start to trickle back into the WWE because the Lord knows WWE could use some star power right now.
Mm-hmm,
and
absolutely.
When Roman Reigns came back, we were wondering, when's Zayn going to come back? And here he is now.
Yeah.
And, he's doing some of the best work in his career.
Sami Zayn hits that big springboard moonsault, and he's favoring his right knee. I was really scared that he tweaked his knee early on, but he's beating both of them up with the ladder. And then Jeff Hardy back body drops Sami into a ladder that's bridged in the ring. And Sami, That's not the first time. That's not the last time, rather, that Sami took a big bump on the ladder. Sami took a beating in this match, man.
Was that the spot where the ladder was upside down?
No, that was after. Jeff sets up
Okay,
the
yeah.
ladder like on its so basically Jeff sets up the
And
ladder upside down. AJ comes
and
in.
and then he basically launches Styles into that upside down, into like the support beams of
Well,
that ladder.
what happened is Jeff launched himself towards AJ like he was going to do a crossbody, and AJ moved out of the way, and then Jeff hits himself on that little support, support brackets,
breaking the support.
And I was like,
of that ladder.
I was sitting there like, what the fuck is Jeff Hardy doing? This guy's gonna freaking this poor guy's gonna freaking kill himself. I'm so excited I can't even speak.
Yeah, there were some nasty spots in this match.
Yeah. Sami Zayn gets hit with a back body drop by AJ, and he bounces off the ladder like a freaking pinball. Like I said, Sami was getting his ass kicked in this match, and I'm sure
was that the spot where he bounced off the ladder, and then he bounced off the ropes, and then he bounced off the ladder again.
Yep. I think Michael Cole described it as Sami Zayn bouncing off of it like a pinball, and here I am taking Michael Cole's lines. Who would have thunk it in the year 2020? AJ hits a really beautiful Pele kick, and I wrote down, look at Sami's welts.
Oh, yeah.
This is already
starting to bruise up.
This is like, these bruises are like Daniel Bryan at the greatest Royal Rumble level bad.
Oh, yeah.
My God. Like I said, Sami, all the credit in the world for hopping right back in a match this dangerous.
And one thing I also got to point out that I'm really admiring from Zayn, basically last year, up until this point, Zayn wasn't really wrestling. He was kind of transitioning back into a manager role.
Yes.
I know he was transitioning into a manager role, and he was doing very little to no work into the ring. He was doing things like getting booked in handicap matches where he had to do very little work. I don't know if it was because if he was still recovering from an injury or if he was legit just trying to step away from the ring for a bit. Even his match with Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania was mostly him running away from Bryan and then catching a lucky haluva kick and to win. This is the first time. Well, I mean, this and SmackDown, a couple of SmackDowns since he's come back, that he's actually been going back into full-blown wrestler mode. And I missed that.
I
really
did
missed
too.
That from Sami Zayn.
I did too. I agree. Yeah, and I think the reason why Sami was doing more manager stuff around that point is because of his torn rotator cuff. It actually leads me to a funny story. So, before the pandemic, I took my girlfriend to a SmackDown just up the road in San Jose. And Sami Zayn was on that show a couple times as a manager for Cesaro. I believe Cesaro wrestled Elias on that episode of SmackDown. And I turned to my girlfriend and I tell her, would you believe me if I told you that guy on the outside is one of the best wrestlers in the world? And she looked at me flat out and she tells me, no, he looks like Seth Rogen and he's annoying. And I'm like, that's what they're using him for right now, but they're underutilizing him. I'm telling you, Lauren, that guy is fucking awesome, and he proved it in this match.
I feel like a lot of fans, especially in this past year or so, haven't been able to see Sami Zayn at his best as a wrestler, and I'm glad now, and especially during this match, he showed up. He showed up.
He hits a beautiful exploder suplex on AJ into the ladder, and Sammy's kind of so. They eventually go outside. Jeff hits a poetry in motion on AJ, and he gets rammed into the barricade. And then Sami Zayn with a haluva kick out of nowhere onto Jeff, and he topples over the barricade.
Oh, man, that's when I said some people in the Thunderdome are getting very interesting views of the match right now.
Yeah, I was like, how did these people look down? Granted, Tomas and I have not tried to go into the WWE Thunderdome at this point as of recording.
Not yet. Not yet.
We aren't aware exactly of how the Thunderdome actually works.
There's a website, and you basically just sign up.
Well, I mean, we know you have to sign up, but in the vein of how you're watching the show, is it just you're watching the show on TV and you just have a camera on you, or but I don't know. But anyway, if anybody's been in the Thunderdome, let me know down in the comments below. I'm interested. So Sami starts his damn slow climb, which is something that I'm really peeved off at with these ladder matches at this point. You're climbing the ladder so slowly. I get that you're kind of selling the beating that you're taking, but you can climb that ladder really quickly.
To add on to that, not only that, but they were especially guilty of it in this match. One of the very few criticisms I'm going to give this match is when they don't put the ladder directly under the titles. It's like, you're not going to be able to reach the titles when, the ladder is here and like the titles are like all the way over here. Like, so why would you even do that? You're either setting up for a spot, or you're just, you're trying to, a lot of ladder matches are just, stalling because, you're not supposed to win the match, or that match isn't supposed to end yet.
Yeah. That's a very, very great point, my friend. But yeah, Sami's doing the slow climb, and AJ launches a hornswoggle ladder at Sami Zayn.
That was beautiful.
Hits Sami in the fingers, and Sami is
here's the
selling
thing.
that so well.
I liked how they all ended up selling it, because I'm pretty sure Styles was aiming for Zayn's face, but he completely missed. And if you look at it, it looked like he whiffed it, but I think Zayn and the commentators actually covered it up very well. They first said, "Oh, I think it hit Zayn in the fingers," but when they slow-moed it and they see that it was nowhere near like anything, they played it off as, "Oh, I think Zayn tried to swat the ladder away and he ended up hurting his fingers." I was like, you know what? That's actually the best cover-up I've heard in a while from the commentators. And Zayn was selling the fingers.
Yeah,
so
they
really covered up for that pretty well. But that was a funny spot right there.
Oh yeah, for sure. Jeff and AJ start climbing. Jeff tips the ladder on his own, and they both end up straddled on the ropes. And the ladder, I think, hits Sami also. Sami starts climbing, but Jeff grabs him. AJ is going for a phenomenal forearm. Really, really clean little sequence here as Jeff tips the ladder with Sami on it, and the ladder actually hits AJ as he's going for the phenomenal forearm. And I thought that was...
I think we noticed, and the commentator, Michael Cole, pointed out that Zayn's just getting lucky. He's ending up in spots where he should be the one taking the most punishment, but he's able to get out of the way or influence it. So Hardy and Styles take the pain instead, which Zayn, he's smart in the ring. Like, his psychology and as we're going to get into later with this match, is just, he's brilliant. He's brilliant in that ring. He's really got the brains.
He really is. Yeah, even though Sami was taking a beating, they were telling a really great story of Sami being like the lucky one in these situations. Yeah. But speaking of lucky, Sami starts climbing and Jeff hits him with a twist of fate. Eventually, I don't know like how or like when this happened, but I guess Jeff was climbing the ladder and Sami was like tipping it over. And then Jeff starts like climbing down the ladder upside down. And Michael Cole's
I was wondering where they were going to go with that, but it turned into Zayn pushing Hardy out of the ring and Hardy taking the nastiest, probably the second nastiest bump in the match. But I mean, we're going to get into that spot later, but this was like nasty unsafe because Hardy like toppled over the top rope and then the ladder fell on top of him. And then Hardy fell on top of the ladder and he kind of got sandwiched in between the ladder. And it was nasty from beginning to fall. Like, it didn't get better. It got worse as he went down.
I'll give Jeff Hardy credit. He's absolutely fearless, but I am so scared that he's going to end up like killing himself on one of these matches one day. But anyway, Hardy's eliminated from the equation at this point. AJ versus Sami. I'm really upset that Sami did not hit AJ with a Blue Thunder Bomb at any point in this match because AJ makes that Blue Thunder Bomb look so beautiful.
There was some spots missing from this match. There was no prior to the big one, there was no Swanton Bomb. There was no Styles Clash. There was no Blue Thunder Bomb. But again, probably the only criticisms I'm going to give to this match.
Yeah, AJ did do a flip off of the announce table and hits a really, really beautiful, crisp reverse DDT to Sami on the floor, and it looked just so clean. There's a reason why AJ Styles is the best wrestler in the world. Watch this match, Any of my viewers who are not convinced that AJ is the best, watch this for sure. I'm not just being a mark for him.
Yeah, if you haven't been watching WWE for the past 4 years.
Yeah. He's been the MVP since he came in for sure. Like, even though we have MVP back on the roster. But anyway, then we get to the big spot of the match. Sami is on the bridge, on the ladder bridge. Jeff Hardy, a la WrestleMania 33, climbs this really tall ladder and hits the Swanton Bomb on Sami Zayn, and the ladder buckles. And Sami...
Hardy? Okay, two things I'm going to say about that spot. Number one, Hardy is the only one that could stand at the very tip top of the ladder like that. or as
Yeah.
Taz would say, the tippy top of that ladder, and not fall. He's got some amazing balance up there.
Yeah.
And that Swanton bomb was probably the nastiest Swanton. That was nastier than the one at Mania 33 on Cesaro.
Oh,
That was
yeah.
nastier than the senton he gave Edge at WrestleMania 23. Just the impact and the velocity at which he landed on Zayn was nasty, but the
Oh.
whole spot was clean in general.
Yeah, just the thud also just made really sold the pain that Sami was going through at that point. And Jeff
Oh, yeah.
also to an extent. I jumped out of my seat when I saw that. Sammy's eliminated from the equation for a bit. AJ's back up, and Michael Cole calls AJ's backer red blah, which made me laugh. But AJ starts climbing. Nasty AJ landing as Jeff pushes him off. And then Sami somehow is back on his feet, throwing Jeff into the barricade as hard as he possibly can.
It's like that Swanton bomb pissed Zayn off. Because something awoke in Zayn, and this very malicious side awoke, because he goes into his jacket that he left on the announce table and pulls out 2 sets of handcuffs. And you're probably thinking, oh, he's probably going to handcuff Hardy and Styles to the ring ropes, and then he's just going to go climb and get the title. No. Something in this crazy little pissant's mind starts to conjure up, and he grabs Hardy. And if you all remember Hell in a Cell 2018, and we thought that the nastiest spot ever was going to be Randy Orton twisting the screwdriver in Jeff Hardy's earlobe, Zayn somehow came up with something even eviler than that. He took the handcuff, hooked it to a ladder, and then hooked the other cuff into Jeff Hardy's earlobe.
Yeah.
And it was at that point where I just said out loud, I can definitely say I've never seen that before. Zayn then goes to get Styles into the ring, and he handcuffs his hand, and he's going to handcuff it to the bottom rope. But Styles, awkwardly, at first I didn't understand what was going on, but he put him into like a vertical suplex position, and I'm just wondering, what's he going to do? He's like holding on to this for a very long time. And he just hit the normal suplex. Yeah. It was then when they got up that Zayn had handcuffed himself to Styles.
Yep. So AJ cannot climb up and get the titles without bringing Sami with him.
Oh, yeah. So
brilliant.
As Styles is starting to climb up the ladder with Zayn on his shoulders, Hardy is holding the ladder up to his ear like it's the world's largest earring. And he is trying to get his way back into the ring. And then that's when Zayn pulls out the key to the handcuffs when they're like on the top of the ladder, is able to unhook himself, which apparently he hid that key under his tongue. Don't know how he did that.
The entire time.
Yeah. And he was able to unlock the handcuffs, able to hook Styles onto the support of that ladder. And with Hardy with a ladder up to his ear and Styles hooked to the ladder, like Zayn is some crazy little Canadian Houdini. Yeah. Zayn is able to unhook the titles and win the match. That is the most creative finish I have ever seen to a ladder match. This gets 4 stars easily. This was my favorite match of the night. And you know, in kayfabe, you can't even get mad at Zayn because, like Michael Cole said, it was brilliant.
It was
love him or hate him, it was brilliant.
So brilliant. Like as soon as the handcuffs came out, that whole ending, as you mentioned, was just so fun to watch also. And just seeing that visual of Jeff carrying a ladder like next to his head as if he's talking to it like it's a freaking cell phone. I'm like, this looks so ridiculous, but this is so entertaining to watch. It must be really painful for Jeff, but like, yeah, you mentioned Sami Zayn is the undisputed Intercontinental Champion at this point. You gave it 4 stars. I gave it 4 3/4 stars, my friend.
It was a damn good match, and it was the match of the night for sure.
Hell of a ladder match. Absolutely tremendous. Bravo to all 3 guys. There were a couple of the ending is going to be kind of goofy. Not everybody's going to be like, oh, not everybody's going to take it as seriously as we did, but like.
It was creative.
It was so
100% creative. And like they could have went the boring route and just handcuffed them to the bottom rope.
Yeah.
But no, like, again, like in wrestling, when you think you've seen it all, you want them to do something you've never done before. They did stuff in this match I've never seen before.
God.
So this match was great.
So
This match was great.
this was the best. Honestly, I'd go as far as to say this is the best in-ring match on pay-per-view they've had this year. I don't
And
know if
you see what happens when you put AJ Styles on pay-per-view?
yeah, don't make that mistake again, WWE. Anyway, yeah, you can tell we're marks for the guy, but
Oh, yeah.
anyway, yeah, love this match, and man, I did not envy the acts that had to follow this match because they made it really, really tough, and nothing could top this. But
Oh yeah,
anyway, we see,
they did do a good job of like kind of calming everything down before the next match because they
yeah,
did the interview with Sami Zayn where he said that he never lost the Intercontinental title. We're never going to hear the end of this. They did a
yeah.
recap of the Kickoff show where R-Truth,
I want to
R-Truth,
talk about this. I want to talk
okay,
about this. So,
R-Truth,
R-Truth, of course, is a 24/7 champion, like 38-time 24/7 champion at this point. 24/7, 48/7, 7-Eleven.
7-Eleven,
Yeah, whatever it is.
I-95, European.
Yeah, so he's roaming backstage with this really shitty disguise, and he happens to roam into the referee's locker room. And Chad Patton is there,
It's
and I
not
think,
a shitty disguise. He was a gold miner. He was
yeah,
planning for gold. He wanted gold. It's gold rush.
because
He's a brilliant man.
God damn it. No, he's not a 49er. I don't want to say it. But anyway, so yeah, R-Truth is roaming around backstage and he goes into the referee's locker room. Chad Patton is there, and formerly known as Drake Younger is also there with
Drake
him.
Wirtz.
And like, yeah, Drake Wirtz. Yeah, thank you. He looks at Truth and he's like, "What the heck are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, little Jimmy, this is the referee's locker room." And then he goes away. And I actually think for a second that Drake Wirtz is going to roll up R-Truth and Chad Patton is going to pin him. But instead, you have Drew Gulak just roaming around backstage for some reason. He's just doing
he was
lunges.
doing, like, squats. Yeah, he was
He
doing
lunges. He wasn't even on the card. Why was he warming up? Like, but anyway, yeah, Drew Gulak is roaming around backstage. He sees R-Truth arguing with the referee. He rolls up R-Truth. Drew Gulak is the 24/7 champion, and I'm like,
I kind of went dummy mode right here because I go, oh, well, R-Truth better win the 24/7 title back by the end of the night because if he doesn't, that's going to become exclusively a SmackDown title because Gulak's on SmackDown. I
yeah,
don't even know why that thought came up my mind because spoiler alert, in a few segments, Gulak's getting interviewed and R-Truth just shows up again and rolls him back up. So I don't know, they probably did that to break up the monotony that was Truth Tozawa.
yeah.
They're on pay-per-view. Both rosters are on there, so let's give it to a SmackDown guy for 5 minutes.
Yeah. Let's give it to Drew Gulak for about 10 minutes. Which, speaking of 10 minutes, we have the Raw Women's Championship match up next. Asuka versus Zelina Vega. This match was originally scheduled for the Kickoff show, and I was really surprised. Raw Women's Championship on the Kickoff, but thankfully they moved it up. I was also really, really happy to see Vega get this opportunity because everybody knows she's a great manager, but she is also a fantastic wrestler in her own right.
Oh, yeah.
And that's
I don't think we've seen enough of her wrestle. I think since she come to WWE, we've seen her wrestle, like, on TV, like, a grand total of, like, maybe only, like, less than 5 times. 4 or 5 times. We've seen, like, little tastes of her in the ring. And I think this is finally, it's like, hey, WWE, you realize that you have this very talented woman that you could be using, So I was very excited for this match. Yeah, if you want to take the reins and
sure.
tell us how this match kicked off.
But Asuka was toying with Vega basically to begin. There were a lot. I mean, I didn't really take a whole bunch of notes in this match, honestly. I was just kind of like looking at it, and I'm like, okay. I mean, it's good.
Yeah.
Like I think
it was fun. We had some fun sequences. We had some, a really nice rolling kick by Vega. Like I said, we don't see enough of her. So I think this was a very good opportunity for her to showcase herself.
Yeah, and she had a lot of really great moments in this match working over Asuka's arm, and Asuka was selling that arm really well, too.
Oh, yeah, and there were some very good submission spots in there as well. Vega, hate to reference this person, but tapping into her inner Alberto Del Rio and locking in a cross arm breaker at one point. There was basically... we all know Vega's more talented than Alberto, though. My biggest issue with this match is that I think it was too short. And I think if you would have given these ladies a lot more time to work with, maybe 5 or 6 minutes, They really could have picked up the pace, and this match could have been better.
Oh
It
yeah,
was good, but I thought it could have been better.
definitely. Yeah, Vega
Basically
actually.
the finish was,
Yeah, Vega actually hit a couple of really nice, or a lot of really nice transitions from her. She hits actually the kick that Kalisto does, like the roll through kick, and then it's a quick
the
little,
rolling kick. Yeah.
quick little kick to the head. I was really surprised to see that. I was like, okay, Zelina, you go.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, really beautiful transitions at the end. Lots of bridging counters between the two into a really abrupt Asuka lock, I found. And
Yeah.
Zelina immediately taps.
Yeah, I feel like this match could have benefited with more time.
Yeah.
But I will say and I give the match 2.5 stars. And that's not a bad 2.5. It's a good 2.5. I just wish the match could have been a lot longer, and it definitely could have given more. Thankfully, I do not think this is the end of the feud, because after the match, Asuka is getting interviewed in the ring, and Vega goes up to her, and Asuka extends the hand. Vega doesn't want to shake it, and Vega doesn't shake, and she bows to her instead. Baiting Asuka right into her trap, kicks her in the gut. They get into a short scuffle. Asuka cuts a very angry promo in Japanese, and I don't want this to be the end of their feud.
Oh,
Because,
God bless
I hope
Asuka's
they
heart.
work.
God bless Asuka's heart.
I
I did not understand a word of that promo. But anyway, I gave it 2 3/4 stars out of 5. This was a lot better match than I was expecting, personally. Vega really impressed me. I feel like, if I'm nitpicking, I feel like the match, I agree, it definitely would have been better with more time. I definitely feel like Vega would have been put over a lot better in the match as it is if she did not immediately tap out to the Asuka lock. Like, if she was in there for a little bit longer than she was, like, trying to, like, fight out of it, like, she immediately tapped out. And I'm like, you're kind of making her look like a chump in that regard. But
yeah. Oh yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there, and I want to see more matches. Hopefully, they get another match on Raw, and hopefully they fight again at Hell in a Cell, because they could draw this feud out a little longer.
Which is the
I
next
think
pay-per-view.
it would better both of them. Yes, on October 25th is going to be Hell in a Cell.
Yes,
that's going to be an interesting pay-per-view.
Hell in a Cell, yep, in the Thunderdome also. And I was really concerned that we were not going to get a Hell in a Cell match this year because of all this pandemic business going on, because they've been in the Performance Center for God knows how long. And now I don't know how they're going to do it in the Thunderdome, but, like, I mean, I guess they figured it out. Hell in a Cell is coming up. I'm excited.
That's been the theme this year with wrestling companies. They're figuring it out, and they're making it work. Between AEW and WWE and Impact Wrestling and even independent promotions that are starting to resurface, they're making it work, and I'm happy. I'm happy to see that.
Oh yeah, for sure. We're all adapting.
Next up is our. Oh yeah. Next up is. Was there anything before the United States title? Were there any backstage segments?
Oh no, there wasn't. But this U.S. title match, Bobby Lashley and Apollo Crews, it's a fucking rematch. This is one of the reasons why I was not really excited for this show, is because of all these goddamn rematches that we were getting.
Obviously, WWE had no idea what they were going to do with Bobby Lashley going in a Clash. They have the Hurt Business, kind of like pulling quadruple duty on Monday Night Raw, with feuding with Apollo Crews and Ricochet, and feuding with Retribution. That are like, oh wait, let's just throw them in there with Crews again. Kind of just to hopefully end that feud for good.
That's what I wrote down, actually. So Lashley's obviously fighting Apollo Crews now, who he beat at Payback for the U.S. title, and WWE apparently said they completely nixed automatic rematches, and it looks like Apollo Crews got one anyway. But
that's a lie. Everyone knew that wasn't going to last.
You mentioned a name, Ricochet. Extremely underutilized, and he was in Apollo Crews' corner. Is there anything wrong with doing just Bobby Lashley versus Ricochet here?
That could be their next plan, but
God, I
obviously
hope so.
they wanted to. They wanted to get this Crews rematch out of the way.
God, I hope so.
I really didn't have an issue with this match being on the show. I just did have an issue that it was basically a carbon copy of their Payback match, which to me says they're just doing this match to get it out of the way. There was no build. Going into this match, the real feud, the real issue is Apollo Crews and Ricochet with Cedric Alexander, and it's less about Crews trying to regain the United States Championship. I really have nothing to say about this match other than if you saw the match at Payback, this was the same thing.
Yeah, if you put the two matches next to each other, I took some notes for this match, and I really don't really think I needed to, but like if you put the
Mhm.
matches right next to each other, they're pretty much interchangeable. Except you have
Yeah.
Ricochet in Apollo Crews' corner. That's pretty
Yeah,
much
it
the
was
only
decent
change.
enough, and you had some MVP jaw jacking to Cruz,
Yeah.
which I
Oh,
thought was fun.
I love MVP in this role also. Like
Oh yeah, oh
the
yeah,
Hurt Business has been one of my favorite new acts in the company like this entire year. Like
oh yeah.
they are awesome.
Yeah. Match ends. Bobby Lashley puts Cruz into the full Lashley, and I think Cruz tapped out pretty quickly too,
He
which,
did
in all honesty, makes him look like a chump.
the exact
Uh,
same finish as the payback match. Apollo Crews tapping out to the full Nelson. But like honestly, like there were some
and
good
again, I
sequences in
think
this match.
they just wanted to get this match over. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Lashley and Cruz are very, very talented, and
Yeah.
you put them. The match wasn't necessarily bad. It's just that we've seen it,
Apollo
and
Crews had the best counter I've ever seen out of a Dominator. I will say that
mhm.
was so awesome. I was like, wow, Apollo Crews just landed on his freaking feet out of the
Oh
Dominator.
yeah.
Like,
And not to jump ahead, but whether it be the United States Championship or the WWE Championship, I'm just gonna say I think Keith Lee is going to be involved in a title coming
mhm.
up, whether it be the WWE Championship, whether I want to continue this theme of keeping the United States Championship strictly black. Um, and I think it would be a fun sequence for MVP because MVP would want to recruit Keith Lee into the Hurt Business, make him that much stronger.
Yeah,
And Lee could
yeah.
definitely do that. No, I'm not going to join. I don't want to join. I want to take that United States Championship off of Lashley.
Again,
So
yeah.
yeah, whatever direction they decide to go with Keith Lee, he's got some gold coming in his future.
Amen to that. Keith Lee's the
Oh
man,
yeah.
dude. Like, and that's honestly, that's if Keith Lee is still on Raw. Because again, to jump ahead,
Oh yeah, that's right.
we got another fucking draft coming up. Why do you need another one?
Okay. It's the same thing as a superstar shakeup. It doesn't matter what you call it. They're
but
switching
like
guys
if
from Raw
you're
to SmackDown and SmackDown to Raw.
but like what's the point of like going through a whole other draft if you're just gonna keep, for example, Drew McIntyre on Raw? Like, why do you say Drew McIntyre was drafted from Raw to Raw? Like, that makes no sense. Just do a superstar
Or if you
shakeup.
think
Those
about
have been
it,
fine.
and I'm glad WWE is catching themselves before they do this again, because if you notice, they've been doing some unnecessary trades, and they're not even trades. They said that AJ Styles was getting traded to SmackDown in exchange
Yeah.
for Robert Roode and Dolph Ziggler. Where have we seen Robert Roode since that trade? No, we have not. During the draft last year, they said Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross were getting traded to SmackDown. Who did they ever get in return? They never said that. They said that
Yeah.
Mandy Rose got traded to Raw. Who did she get traded for? There's no explanation. So you know what? I'm glad WWE is catching it and just saying, hey, let's reestablish these brands before we end up with another fucking wild card rule in our hands.
Yeah.
I'm going to give WWE credit there. So whether it's a draft or a superstar shakeup, let's not do that before you do it again.
Mark my words,
because,
AJ Styles is going to Raw in this next shakeup because
I will have no
Heyman.
or Mustafa Ali randomly showing up on Raw. Like there's no explanation to why they're putting these people onto different shows. So you know what? Let's establish these rosters again. I don't care if you got to do whatever you're WWE. Just don't slip into that mindset again. And if they do send AJ Styles to Raw, that'll definitely be interesting. I personally am looking forward to the draft because sometimes you just need to press that goddamn reset button, and that's something that WWE needs to do a lot.
Yeah. Or
anywho, speaking of redundancy,
wild card, baby.
So what's gonna piss us off more, the wild card rule or next? Speaking of redundancy, the Raw Tag Team titles are on the line as the Street Profits defend against Angel Garza and Andrade for like the 6th time this month.
No, for like the 95th time in 2020. Speaking of fucking rematches, like, I'm a big fan of the Street Profits. I love them to death. They are, I think, one of the best acts going in WWE right now. They are rising stars. I love them as the tag team champions. They're awesome. I'm a big believer in Angel Garza and Andrade. But how many fucking times do I have to see these two teams wrestle this year?
And you know what? It's not the Street Profits fault. I think it's more of WWE just giving them Garza and Andrade. Like, you know what, WWE? This is what happens when you release half of your roster. You don't, again, you let the brands go a little hog wild again. And one half of one of your better tag teams on Monday Night Raw, Ivar, goes down with an injury for a year. So you can't do the Viking Raiders. You can't do really any other teams because you don't have any other teams. So what do? You give us Garza and Andrade. You give us Humberto Carrillo and Dominic Mysterio. You give us Seth Rollins and Murphy that have no business being a tag team.
Honestly, hell, I would have done this. I would have just done Seth Rollins and Murphy on this show. I would have had them win the triple threat match last week. I mean, they're actually doing a story with Seth Rollins and Murphy right now. Like, they could have put it in the Street Profits.
Yeah, that's a good point. They could have,
I don't want to watch this
in
match.
In a sense, that would have been a rematch from Elimination Chamber because that's who the Street Profits beat for the Raw Tag Team titles.
Yeah, and like
it's just WWE has no tag teams right now.
I know. This is not to say that the Street Profits, Angel Garza, or Andrade are bad performers, because they're not. They have good chemistry together. They were doing some good spots in this match, and I noticed that they were trying their best to make this match at least different from the other ones.
Yeah.
But, like, at the same time, it's like, enough is enough. Like, how many times do these teams wrestle each other? It gets repetitive.
And it's not even a repetitive kind of match that I want to see over and over and over. This is not a Seth Rollins versus Rey Mysterio. This is not a Humberto Carrillo versus Andrade. This is just, you see this match on Raw every week.
Yeah.
I really have nothing to say about this match. It was all right. What I do have to say is for the finish, which really knocked this match down. I wasn't even paying attention, but apparently Angelo Dawkins went for his sky high powerbomb that he always does, and Andrade clearly kicked out, but the referee counted a 3 and rung the bell, and apparently it's just too inconvenient for WWE now to restart the match.
Was this a replacement referee that was doing this match, and he just did not see Andrade's shoulder come up? Like, Jesus Christ. This fucking ending, man. Like, I don't want to watch this match again, but
you could tell that Dawkins was visibly pissed.
Yeah, the Street Profits were very upset.
Dawkins was visibly pissed.
A debacle. Like, my goodness. I gave the match, all things considered,
3/4 for me.
I gave it 2 stars, mainly because the guys worked hard, but that shitty finish.
Here's the thing. I gave it 2 stars, but the ending just really rubbed me the wrong way. WWE been having Adam Pearce go out there as a makeshift general manager for the past 6 weeks. You can't send Adam Pearce out there and say, no, I clearly saw the shoulders go up, so restart the match, ref. They could have wrestled for like a minute longer, and they could have done the proper finish.
Yeah.
Instead, WWE said, nope, we can't be bothered to restart a match.
Yeah.
When they've done that a million times before.
It's, I don't know. I was upset, visibly upset. And spoiler alert. Speaking of like, you remember, to my viewers, you remember how I mentioned earlier that Tomas and I try not to mention spoilers to each other. Tomas, I told him I was on the Raw Tag Team title match, and he's like, you're going to be pissed at the end of this match. And I'm like, oh no. And I'm like,
he saw why.
Yeah. He at least gave me a clue. He didn't spoil it completely, but
this was a low point for me on the show. I know it's not for you because we have one more match to get into before we get into, thankfully, some very solid main events. Like we said before, Bayley was not going to be facing Nikki Cross for the SmackDown Women's title.
Mm-hmm.
So Bayley came out to cut a promo about how she wasn't facing Cross. And she, to my surprise, issued an open challenge for the SmackDown Women's Championship.
I was like, awesome. Open challenge.
Yeah, so with little to no build, Asuka comes out again, and the bell just rings. And I'm confused. I go, so this is a match? So is this for the SmackDown Women's title? They say it is for the SmackDown Women's title. And you know what? I thought to myself, this is a perfect opportunity for WWE to turn a positive into a negative, have Asuka and Bayley have a kick-ass match like I know they can, like a 5-star match like I know they can, like Finn Balor and AJ Styles did when we couldn't get Balor Bray Wyatt, like throwing Kurt Angle into the Shield when we couldn't have Roman Reigns. And I had myself believing for a second What if Asuka does win the SmackDown Women's title? That could add a brand new dynamic to both Raw and SmackDown. But they
Yeah,
didn't do any of that.
but
They wrestled for like 5 minutes, and Bayley hit Asuka with the chair. So that was basically WWE saying, we don't know what to do, so we're just going to waste your time.
at the same time, yeah. So Asuka comes out, and I wrote down in my notes, Asuka in all caps with 5 question marks. I was
It
like,
was
what the
pretty.
fuck is this? I'm
It
like,
didn't make any sense because they didn't even like Asuka didn't even accept the challenge. She got in the ring and
she
bell
just,
rung.
yeah. This was like, this was a perfect opportunity. If Bayley was going to issue an open challenge, this would have been like an ideal opportunity to bring someone in like Tegan Knox or like a Shotzi Blackheart from NXT. You have so many amazing women on the roster. This is nothing against Asuka here. Like,
To be fair, they didn't find out Cross wasn't going to be on this pay-per-view until an hour before the kickoff. And
yeah,
but to your credit, they could have scrambled together someone who was already there. But also at the same time, WWE obviously was not going anywhere with this. They wanted to, hey, we're not going to have a SmackDown Women's title match, so we're just going to throw one at you, turn it into a 5-minute schmoz, and
yeah.
then Sasha Banks comes out for the save, and it was more about that.
This
So this
was
match wasn't a match. This was a segment.
Yeah, it was an extended segment just to build up Sasha Banks versus Bayley inside Hell in a Cell next month, which I'm really excited to see, by the way. I think it's going to be a killer ass match, and you know they're going to put those girls inside the cell, and that's probably going to be your main event next month. But, like,
Oh, yeah.
man, like, did they really have to bring
They
Asuka
could
out
have
for
thrown
another
a,
match? Like,
no, like you could have thrown a, I don't know, you could have thrown a Billy Kay in there. You could have thrown a Mickey James in there. You could have thrown
Mickey
someone in
James!
there to have a decent match with
Mickey
Bayley.
James, who was no
Yeah, they could have
talent
thrown
on this
someone in
show.
there.
I'm
Yeah,
like, no
they could have
stars.
thrown someone. They could have thrown a Ruby Riott in there.
They could have thrown Liv Morgan in there.
They could. They could have thrown someone in there to have a decent match with Bayley. And if they needed to end in a DQ, that's fine. If they were going to throw Asuka in there, they should have had like a kick-ass 5-star match. But they didn't.
Nope.
And it gets an NA, not available. It wasn't a match to me. It was a segment.
I gave it no
Whew.
stars. This made me so mad. I was like,
See, here's the thing. The Intercontinental title match and the next 2 matches we're going to talk about
yeah,
saved this show because everything else on this show was pretty mediocre, with the exception of the Raw Women's title match. But even then, it suffered from not having enough time.
I honestly kind of liked the U.S. title match, even though it was kind of interchangeable from like the payback match. But like this segment with Bayley, like and Asuka, pissed me off mainly because of the wild card rule. Like the wild card rule is dead, and Asuka should not be challenging for the SmackDown title. She already has the Raw title.
It didn't bother me. It's just like, well, then at the same time, when Finn Balor fought AJ Styles, Styles is on SmackDown. Why is he fighting Finn Balor?
But at the same time, that's just like a one fall match. It's not for a title or anything.
Again, this could have been a fun opportunity. It brought up a lot of fun scenarios. What if Asuka did win the SmackDown Women's Championship? It could have added a new dynamic to Raw and SmackDown. But obviously, again, WWE had no plans for this. It was a throwaway. I can't believe I'm saying this, but champion versus champion, Bayley versus Asuka was a throwaway match to the WWE.
Yeah, if that was the case, then they should have just cut right to the chase and have Sasha come out and just clock Bayley during her promo.
Yeah, or they could. Yeah, exactly.
In a sense, WWE wasted our time with Bayley versus Asuka.
And it sucks because we went from decent United States title match to shitty finished Raw Tag Team title match to whatever the hell this was. Thankfully, next we have the ambulance match for the WWE Championship. Drew McIntyre versus Randy Orton. They came to save this show.
They came to save this show, and I wrote down ambulance match next. What the shit? Because this should have been the main event, as far as I'm concerned.
But when we talk about the main event, you understand why it was the main event.
Yeah, but like at the same time, I'm like, Drew McIntyre has not main evented a pay-per-view since WrestleMania. Like,
has he not?
He has not main evented a pay-per-view since he actually won the title from Brock Lesnar.
But at the same time, what's wrong with giving SmackDown a little love? Letting them main event a few pay-per-views.
They've main evented every single show, like, since freaking WrestleMania. And I'm like, You want to give Raw some love a little bit?
There was a time where Raw would only. Well, I mean, there's been like years and years where Raw has main evented the show, so I don't see
Yeah.
anything wrong with throwing a little SmackDown, a little love this year.
Yeah.
Honestly, either of these matches could have closed out the show.
I think I would
And
have
I was
closed out
shocked
with
too.
this one, but
Yeah,
like, I mean,
but both matches, especially with how they ended up, had the caliber of main eventing the show, which I think is good.
yeah.
One of these matches could have ended in a shitty schmoz. Like, it's like, if this would have been a different case if like this wasn't an ambulance match and you saw like, oh, the WWE Championship match is up next and you saw it end in a DQ, it's like, oh, okay, they don't want to end it like that.
Yeah.
At least I like with both of these matches, it was like, it didn't matter what went on last, they both fit. It's just like, and you make some very good points as well.
Yeah, but anyway, yeah. So, the rules of the ambulance match: Drew McIntyre defending the WWE title against Randy Orton. No pinfalls, no submissions, anything goes. The only way to win is to stuff your opponent in the ambulance at the entranceway and close both doors behind them, and then they're carted out of the arena. This was
to jump the gun a little, can I just say, yeah, this was the best ambulance match since Shane McMahon versus Kane.
Yes, I honestly would go as far as to say this was even better than Shane McMahon versus Kane. This was so much fun. I
would say Shane and Kane in this match were the only good ambulance matches. John Cena versus Kane was not good. John Cena versus Ryback was not good.
No.
I mean, there was Braun Strowman and Roman Reigns.
Oh, that was fun. That was fun. This was better, though.
I would say still. I would say this is better.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there was another ambulance match that was just like, eh.
I don't remember there being another ambulance match other than those, but I love Randy Orton selling. Like, Drew McIntyre hits him with like the hardest chops in the business, and Randy Orton's like, God damn it! I'm like, Orton is like screaming at the top of his lungs. Like,
I really appreciated from this match how they kind of cut the bullshit, and it's a no holds barred match, so they did wrestle for a little bit, but it wasn't too later into the match. I mean, it wasn't too late into the match where they started getting into what the main gimmick of this, not even the ambulance, of what this match was going to be. And Randy Orton was setting up for a punt kick, and in a beautiful camera shot, you would just see a giant arm grab Randy Orton's leg, and they pan over, and it's the Big Show.
It's the
and
Big Show.
The minute I saw that, I thought like, okay, I see what they're doing. They're all going to start coming back for their revenge.
Well, it's the Big Show.
And the Big Show chokeslammed Randy Orton through the announce table.
He totally did. The Big Show came, and I was so happy to see him. I was like, as soon as I saw that, I was just like, I know the gimmick of this match now. That's why I'm kind of like, I don't know if this match was better than the SummerSlam match. Kind of getting a little bit ahead of myself, because once I saw the Big Show chokeslam Randy Orton, I kind of saw where the gimmick of this match was going. Big Show chokeslams Randy Orton through the announce table. And Drew, keep in mind, is the babyface, and he is not asking for any of these guys' help. Like, oh
no,
these guys are coming in on their own will because they freaking hate Randy Orton. But Drew is after the chokeslam, Drew basically is inching Randy Orton over towards the ambulance. They're brawling outside for a little bit. Again, the loudest chops in the business right now belong to Drew McIntyre. Like, they are resonant in that Thunderdome.
Yeah, they make their way to the ambulance, and they open the door, and McIntyre is setting up for a Claymore. He misses the Claymore, and he kicks the door off of its hinges.
He did.
And that was a pretty nasty spot right there. McIntyre looked, he sold that very well, with his leg and him hitting the concrete floor. It's wrestling, ladies and gentlemen. That door was loosened, but still, it looked cool.
Oh, yeah. Kicking the Claymore off the door just also puts over that finisher as lethal as it is. I also really loved how Drew McIntyre was pulling out all the weapons from the back of the ambulance for them to play with. And he pulls out a red steel chair with a big white American Red Cross logo on it. And Samoa Joe, I think, with the call of the night says, American Red Cross doesn't make steel chairs. Um, anyway, great storytelling in this match. To your point, Randy Orton driving that steel chair into Drew McIntyre's busted jaw. Um, yeah, the hardest Glasgow kiss I've ever seen. Also, right before that
Oh God,
Claymore.
that move is nasty. And I
Oh,
think McIntyre throws the best headbutt in the business right now.
even though headbutts I don't really
Um,
think are very safe, Drew McIntyre makes it look so lethal. But
Nasty.
now they're going backstage into catering.
Yeah,
Who pops up, keeping up with the gimmick of the match, but Christian? Oh, I was so happy to
yeah.
see him.
That's when you know, okay, yeah, it's all coming together. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there was an absence of one person, and we'll get into that later. And I was disappointed, but I understood at the same time.
Yeah,
We'll get into that later. Christian throws Orton over the table, gets his licks in, and that's when you know. And every time this happens, you see a little smile on McIntyre's face, like, oh yeah, he's getting what's coming to him.
yeah,
And
and he's getting help
after
too.
after every time this happens, McIntyre goes to finish the match. And that's when they start brawling on top of the ambulance. And
Mm-hmm.
in the nastiest spot for me was when McIntyre cracked the windshield.
He did. He cracked that windshield and he started bleeding from his back, and I was just like, that could not have been fun. Like,
Oh yeah.
I'm not
And
a
was that from a
trained
back body
athlete or
drop?
trained. I'm not a trained wrestler or anything, but I was like, I would not want to take that bump ever. But props to Drew
Gimmicked
McIntyre
windshield or
for it.
not, that still hurt.
Yeah. But also, I also wrote down that Orton rakes the eyes of Drew, and I also reminded myself that this is not under eye for an eye rules. Um,
It'll never be under eye for an eye rules again.
again, where's that guy from the performance center to yell out eye for an eye for Drew McIntyre to choose stipulation?
Eye for an eye match.
Anyway,
um,
yeah,
and my favorite spot of the match that me and Brittany were cracking up over, they were fighting on top of the ambulance, and Orton starts to like slowly push McIntyre off the ambulance,
hmm
and McIntyre is holding on by his fingers. And I just imagine Orton as Star
yeah,
in The Lion King, just looking over Orton saying, "Long live the king." And he
yes,
starts stomping the fingers, and McIntyre falls off the ambulance, and Orton turns around, and who does he see? The Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels
Shawn
delivering sweet
Michaels.
chin music, and so beautifully nudges Orton off the ambulance, and he falls through a table.
Dolph
So nice to see
Ziggler
Shawn Michaels.
Dolph Ziggler wishes he can hit a super kick as good as Shawn Michaels, but anyway, yeah, Shawn Michaels, that was my favorite moment of the match personally. Shawn Michaels popping up from out of nowhere on top of the ambulance. This match was so fun. Yeah, but Drew is carrying him over to the ambulance, and Randy Orton hits the RKO right on the floor, and Drew McIntyre is selling that. Um, let's see. Orton goes to put Drew in the ambulance. You think it's going to end, but Drew McIntyre just inches before Orton's about to close it, pries open that second door, and that's a great image of Drew like coming out of that freaking ambulance, almost like a guy, the hero in a horror movie rising up from the dead. It was great. Again, Drew McIntyre gouges Randy Orton's eye. Again, a reminder: this is not under eye for an eye match rules, ladies and gentlemen. Drew McIntyre hits the Claymore. He puts Randy Orton inside the ambulance, but he's not done with him yet. He brings Randy Orton out, so he's kind of draped face first over the edge. Drew McIntyre hits Randy Orton with the most poetic punt kick I've ever seen in my life, and then he stuffs Randy Orton inside. Drew McIntyre retains the WWE Championship. I was surprised, but I was pleasantly surprised. I never want Drew McIntyre to drop this title.
Oh yeah.
But
Uh,
man, I was ecstatic.
4.25 stars for me. That was super fun to watch.
Same.
Um, yeah, and there, like I said, there was one absence of one man that would have made this perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Edge. I don't think Edge is physically capable of doing anything just yet.
Yep.
And I know we're gonna get Edge back in the
Mm-hmm.
future, but I just think that would have been poetic justice,
For
because
sure.
Edge is the one that started Orton's reign of terror at the beginning of this year.
Yeah.
But at the very end, we did get a very fun shot of the referee telling the ambulance driver, "Hey, take him away." And he wasn't doing. We look over, and who's driving the ambulance? None other than the Nature Boy Ric Flair himself. He can't get physical. but he can drive Orton's ass to the hospital.
Ric Flair looked so happy being behind that wheel. I was so happy to see that. I was like, "You go, Flair. You go, dude."
Yeah.
Uh,
I think it's safe to say that this is the end of this feud.
yeah,
Thankfully,
this is not going to
because
be inside Hell in a Cell next month for sure.
no,
This
no,
is
no,
the end.
no.
I think Drew's going to
The
move on to
only
a different
way,
opponent.
yeah, the only way I see it happening is if Orton tries to pull some BS tomorrow where he says, "Oh, McIntyre, you couldn't beat me unless you had like 5 other people helping you." The classic heel excuse. But I just think that the ending was like, poetic justice. I don't
Yeah,
think they need to do it again.
no,
Yeah.
no.
So yeah,
Um,
excellent match. Excellent match.
yeah, it was so much fun. Yeah, like you said, I think it's the best ambulance match in history. And also, I don't care who Drew McIntyre keeps fighting at this point. I never want him to lose that title. I mean, I know he's going to at some point, but Drew McIntyre is the freaking face of the company right now.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
you
and
got to
if
keep pushing
anything,
him.
tonight proved it. Tonight proved it.
Yeah. Oh, Drew's the man. I love him.
Yeah.
But main event time. Roman Reigns defending the Universal Championship against none other than Jey Uso, who we talked about a lot at the
The
beginning.
the most interesting match on this card, I will say. When they announced this match, I was just confused because Roman Reigns had just won the title from The Fiend, also including Braun Strowman. You think they wanted to continue with that feud, but they didn't. They went straight into
Yep.
a brand new feud with Roman Reigns, a brand new gimmick, brand new manager in Paul Heyman. Kind of just like they're ready. They're ready to,
Yep.
let this take off. Leave The Fiend and Braun Strowman alone for a little bit.
Yep.
And apparently Strowman, again, inconsistencies with the brand. Strowman's just on Raw for no reason now.
Yeah.
So let's reestablish these brands, not to get off topic.
And
But
on Raw Underground of all places. Yeah, you go from the
yeah,
Universal Champion to this generation's version of the Brawl for All. There
yeah.
you go. But
But the way they have built this feud, and Jay has really been carrying himself so well on the microphone that I couldn't help but just like wonder how this match was going to go down and be kind of excited for how this match was going to go
yeah.
down.
And
Um,
here's the thing, my friend. This was something completely different.
oh yeah,
It wasn't a rematch, and I'm a big fan of the Usos. I think they're one of the best tag teams working today. Like Jimmy Uso's injured with a torn ACL, I believe.
yeah.
And Jay was just kind of floating around, and like here he is getting
They
a
decided to do
Universal
something with
title
him.
shot, and he's making
Yeah.
the most of it. He looked so like man, like I could feel those butterflies with
Again,
him.
for being a makeshift main eventer for this pay per view, I think don't stop with him. I think Jay could do something while his brother is injured. And hell, even when his brother is healed, they can do something with Jey Uso.
Yes. Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. And honestly, guys, also, I got news for you. Heel Roman Reigns is fucking awesome.
yeah, and before
Like,
we get into that, I will also say the match was predictable, not because I couldn't believe Jey Uso as a main eventer, because at this point I can. Not because I can't believe he can't win a world title. It's because, like you said, Roman Reigns is on a brand new tear right now, and this was just the beginning for him.
mm-hmm.
But even though the match was predictable, it could not have prepared me for what was going to happen in this match,
No.
because this match was basically based off of Roman Reigns being a bully to basically, I mean, his own flesh. You say his cousin, but they might as well be brothers.
Yeah.
Roman Reigns being a bully to his family from
Mm-hmm.
the minute the bell rung to the very end of the match. He was bullying his little cousin,
Yeah, I love also one thing
mentally and physically.
one thing I really, really loved about this match is how I don't know if this was like changed up for this match specifically, but I could tell that they had some mics in the ring so that we could actually hear audibly what they were saying to each other in the trash talk. I wrote down a Roman
Oh yeah,
quote: "How are you going to be the chief if you can't stay on the island?" Like they're
that
playing
was
King of
great.
the Hill, and I'm like,
That was
this
great.
heel Roman Reigns. I love Roman Reigns, but like this heel version of him is just the shakeup he needed,
Oh yeah.
and he is
Um, the
perfectly playing
psychology
this
and the
role.
storytelling that they were telling in this match just worked so well. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Again, from the beginning, just Reigns just getting into Jay's head, telling him that you can't handle it. basically telling him, if you can't run with the big dog, stay on the porch. I'm the head of this family. I'm the leader of this family. Basically telling him to like know your place and don't I'm the leader of this tribe. I provide for this family. You're the tag team guy. Uh,
He says,
and
"This is my WWE." Even getting in the face of senior referee Charles Robinson. Also,
yeah.
like,
So again, they told a very good story. Some very stiff shots from both
yes,
Jay and Reigns in this match. Like they were not holding back on each other, and that just added to the intensity. And one thing I mentioned during the match was this could have been a wrestling match between two cousins for a world championship, but Reigns just chose to just brutalize his own cousin. Just absolutely brutalize him in this match, and not once did he hesitate. And that just added a whole different dynamic to this match. That it worked.
He had his way with Jay throughout, but honestly, just kind of cutting to the end almost. Jay starts to make a comeback. He actually hits a couple of tope suicidas. And he hits like cross bodies and super kicks, and he's getting some really good near falls in there. And Michael Cole is really trying to make you believe that Jey Uso can become the Universal Champion. And like for a second there, I was just like, nah.
Maybe, no, exactly. Like I wanted to believe it. I wanted to. I was like, not this fresh into it. You know what? This match did prove that if you want to do something with Jey Uso, like it doesn't hurt to give it a shot.
Roman Reigns
we're gonna
also
get into the ending.
Yeah, Roman Reigns also, before we get to the ending, a couple things about Roman. First thing is that he was showing a lot of really cool new offensive maneuvers. Well, not really new. He actually hit a radio silence on Jay at one point, which I was really surprised to see. I was like, man, a guy that big hitting Zack Ryder or Matt Cardona in this case, he's hitting that finishing move. I'm like, that's awesome. That's really cool. Like, he's got to give him credit for it.
Yeah.
But
so Jay hits the Samoan shot. Gets a near fall, and that's when
that was crazy.
What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna ask, who's Roman's dentist?
He's got some pearly whites.
I need Roman's dentist number right now. But
oh yeah, he's got some pearly whites.
Yeah, but anyway,
after Jay gets a Samoan shot and we get a kick out by Reigns. That's when basically the ending of this match starts, and Reigns hits a spear, and that's when it's like, okay, the match is over, but he doesn't. He gets up and he spears Jay again, and he tells Jay, "Say I'm the tribal chief. Say I'm the leader. Just say it. I need to hear you say it." And Jay says, "Nah, not today, fam." So Reigns starts the beatdown and starts punching him and punching him and punching him. Paul Heyman looks like he doesn't even approve of what Reigns is doing.
Which is Heyman saying something.
And Heyman gets on the ring apron kind of to stop it and say, "You are the tribal chief. You are the leader." Reigns looks at Heyman and says, "I don't want to hear from you. I want to hear him say it." And he continues the beatdown and just haymaker after haymaker after haymaker. The referee tries to get involved.
Yeah, it is such a huge difference, this relationship between Roman and Paul Heyman also, because if Paul Heyman had told that to Brock Lesnar tonight, for example, Brock would have just continued the beatdown. Roman basically just flat out told him that I'm going to continue the beatdown, and Paul wanted him to stop. Like, because even he was appalled at this. And it's at that point where I really started to get uncomfortable with what I was watching. And not like in like the the bad kind of way, like it was a bad match, but like in the really good way. I think that was the feeling they wanted. Just phenomenal character work from both guys here.
Oh, yeah. Man. And the beatdown continues, and it continues, and it continues. And at this point, Jay's injured brother Jimmy comes hobbling out, knee brace and all, down to the corner to talk some sense into his brother with the white towel. And, at this point, like Jimmy's going to throw in the towel. And he's telling Jay, like, "Come on, let me throw in the towel. And Jay is not giving up.
Jimmy's almost in tears.
Forget it.
Jimmy's almost in
Jay
tears.
Is saying, "Don't forget about this fool."
He's begging him to throw in the towel.
Basically being stubborn, saying, I ain't going to say it. And Reigns starts jaw-jacking with Jimmy. and saying like, you know, I'm the tribal chief. I want to hear him say it. I want it. And Reigns is continuing to beat down. Again, the referee tries to get involved, and Reigns shoves off the referee and says like, this is my WWE. This is my yard. You put your hands on me again, I'm gonna smack you in the next week. And it's like, this is gotten out of hand.
It's almost
This
like
gotten out of hand real fast.
It almost felt like he's holding the company hostage.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah.
Like, you know, it's like Roman Reigns' character is what Retribution wishes it was.
Oh yeah.
Like
Reigns, he could do it single-handedly.
Yeah. Did we tell you guys how much we hate freaking Retribution right now?
Anywho.
Anyway, they weren't anywhere to be found on this show, which is great news. But
shocker.
I gave this match, so eventually Jimmy throws in the towel. I gave this match 3.5 stars, and here's why. This was, you guys remember like our Backlash 02 podcast? We talked about a Jeff Hardy versus Brock Lesnar match, the referee stoppage. I'm going to say the exact same thing in my verdict for this match. It was exactly what it needed to be, because all due respect, there was no way in hell Jey Uso was winning this match. Not a chance. This was basically meant to put over Roman Reigns as the tribal chief, this new top heel in the company, per se. And I feel like both guys, I mean, I was expecting kind of this match, but what they pulled off here was even better than I was expecting.
Oh, yeah. And to mention a little more about the ending to the match, after Jimmy throws in the towel, he's, he immediately just like leaps onto Jay, and it's like hugging him. Just like, it's like
cradling him in his arms.
Yeah. And that's when Jimmy finally looks up at Reigns and says like, fine, you want to hear it? You're the tribal chief. You're the leader. Now leave him alone. It's like, that's what you wanted to hear, right? And I'm giving that to you. And that's how the match ends. Like, Reigns is a controlling, power-hungry maniac now.
Reigns is a prick.
He is.
This is exactly what people were asking for. And this is the time where I actually will agree with all of the marks, I guess. Like, man, like, you got what you asked for, and this is freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Like,
I give the match 3 3/4 stars. 3.5 for the match, and that extra little bump for the ending.
Yeah,
it was great. That match was, again, it's exactly what it needed to be, but it's exactly what it needed to be, and then some.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, man. Yeah. Clash of Champions. I'm gassed from this show. I gave it overall 7.5 out of 10. I mean, you have 2 matches over the 4-star rating, and like the opening match is one of my favorite matches the entire year. Like, it's got to be a good show, at least. I mean, there was a lot of bullshit on this show, but
if I were to tell someone like what to watch on a pay-per-view, like I would just say watch the opener, watch the main event. You don't have to watch all the in-between stuff. 7.5 for me as well. This pay-per-view definitely had some shockingly good stuff in the main events, and the mid-card just wasn't necessarily bad. It's just that we've seen it before, and just WWE's not doing a good job of scrambling when they need to. And they could have made something out of that SmackDown Women's title match, but they didn't.
Yeah. Like, you could have had a really, really interesting open challenge, but like they didn't. But I mean, to your point, the main events and the opener saved the show for sure. It actually bumped it up to be very good.
Oh yeah.
It's
and prediction wise, I got every single match right except the ladder match, because I realized I had predicted every single champion to retain, and I was like, okay, we're going to be wrong, because there's no way that's going to happen. You got 8 titles on the line. They're not all going to retain, because then what's the point?
No, yeah. Otherwise, what's the point of a Clash of Champions with an opening video package narrated by John Cena? Titles are going to change hands. Like, what's the point? Yeah. But anyway, So, that just about does it for the podcast. Again, thank you, Tomas, for joining me. This was this was so much fun, and he does the he does the thing because he's wearing the Roman Reigns shirt.
Oh yeah, I'll do it tonight for the Usos though.
Do it for the Usos. Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah.
For sure. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching. Of course, hit that like and subscribe button as hard as you possibly can. If you all enjoy this content and see it on a more daily basis, feel free to hit all those buttons to keep up with all this really fun content. Look out for next month. October is man, October is going to be a really fun month. I've got a bunch of Halloween themed reviews coming up. And we're also going to be, of course, looking at the pay-per-views. We got TakeOver next weekend.
Oh yeah, we'll be on for that.
Yeah, we'll be on for that. We got Hell in a Cell. We're going to continue looking at 2002 with Judgment Day also.
Judgment Day, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, look out for all that stuff. You guys are the best. With all that being said, Back Talk, commence.